Let me read you two quotes. Thomas Chalmers, The Expulsive Power of a New Affection. Chalmers, of course, was channeling Jonathan Edwards when he said this. He says, "There is not one personal transformation in which the heart is left without an object of ultimate beauty and joy. The heart's desire for one particular object can be conquered, but its desire to have some object is unconquerable. The only way to dispossess the heart of an old affection is by the expulsive power of a new one." It's a little bit paraphrased, but did you hear that? He says, you want to transform yourself, you want to be shaped differently, you want to become a new kind of person. It's not enough just to work on the will. It's not enough just to beat on yourself and say, I got to change because I'm going to disappoint people, or I'm going to have a problem, or something like that. He says, the heart's desire for one particular object of ultimate beauty and joy can be conquered, but its desire to have some object is unconquerable. So the only way to dispossess the heart of an old affection, the only way to get rid of one drive, your workaholism because of career, your desire, if I can just get married to the right person, then everything will be okay. I mean, there's all these desires, these idols that are distorting your life. The only way you can really, really change is through worship. Is through not just loving Jesus with, in the abstract, but giving love and experiencing love of Christ, seeing him as an ultimate beauty. Some years ago, I learned a tremendous amount from this one woman that was living about 4 blocks away from my church when I was in my late 20s. It was a trailer park, and there were a lot of people in there that my folks in my church didn't want to have anything to do with. But I remember getting to know a woman. She was probably in her 40s, and she'd been very, very beautiful as a younger woman. And because of that, she had actually become kind of like what they used to call in the old gangster films, a gun mall. A girl that basically drove around North Carolina with criminals as they robbed banks, almost a Bonnie and Clyde kind of person. And one of the problems was she'd always been pretty when she was younger, and as a result, she became essentially addicted to guys. She had to have somebody, some man loving her, some man taking care of her. At a certain point, she became a drug addict, of course. She went to jail. Her life was kind of ruined. And when she ended up in a trailer court in Hopewell, Virginia on food stamps, she started going to a counselor. And she also started going to a church. It wasn't my church, but it was a church where she did hear the gospel. And she started to believe the gospel. The counselor she was going to rightly, it wasn't a Christian counselor, rightly identified her idol or idolatry of men. And she says, the trouble is when you see a man, you say, I've got to have a guy love me, otherwise I'm nothing. A man's got to love me or I have nothing. And the counselor said, that's not right. You mustn't base your identity in men. You mustn't base your self-worth and your significance in men. You mustn't do that. What you have to do is you've got to do something else. She said, what should I do? And here's what the counselor said. You need to finish your education and get a job and become a financially independent woman and a career woman who's proud of the fact that you are an independent career woman. Then your identity will be rested in that. She thought this out, and at one point she told me, and I don't know if she said it just this well, but at one point she said to the counselor, so you want me to get rid of a female idolatry and adopt a male idolatry? You want me to stop being so fragile by basing my salvation, as it were, on men, so that if a man drops me, my life falls apart. Instead, you want me to base my salvation on my career and making money, so that if anything goes wrong with my business, I'll fall apart. Is that it? In other words, you just want me to fall apart over different things. You want me to transfer my fragility to a more politically correct place. Eventually, she figured out a way of taking the gospel and applying it to her life, and she based it on Colossians 3. And Colossians 3 is a place where it talks about Christ. Your life is hid with Christ in God, and when Christ, who is our life, appears, you will appear in glory. And she said she started meditating when she would see a guy looking at her. She said she would see a guy looking at her and she would feel that old. She says, I stopped myself. I would talk to my heart and I would say this. I would look at him, and in my heart, under my, quietly inside, I would say, maybe I would love to be married I'd love to be married to a great guy. Maybe you're a great guy. Who knows? But I can tell you one thing. You are not my life. Christ is my life. Men are not my life anymore. Christ is my life. And when she would tell herself that, she said, I got the freedom to actually explore the guy rather than just fall for him. It's a gospel-shaped life. Go and do likewise. Let's pray.